Really, how dumb are you?
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
So was that
You're
how
woke. I
you
think you're
resort to
woke.
the name
You're a
calling?
woke mob. I think you're part of the woke mob, sir. Did you storm the Capitol on January 6th?
So how do you consider a far right person? Would you say that they are?
I think you're far right, if that's what you're asking me. I think you're considered far right when you don't want brown people in this country, when you attack the gay community, when you think being gay is a sin, when you attack the trans community, when you judge people based on skin color, when you have no problem with January 6th and you characterize it as a tourist visit, but you only want to talk about Black Lives Matter protests, some of them that turned violent. And when you support Donald Trump, when you buy his Bibles, when you go to his rallies, when you call people like Kamala Harris a whore, when you call Joe Biden a pedophile, when you go out in front of a Target store and you picket and you don't want people to go into Target because they're selling, pro LGBTQ shirts. When you do these types of things, you attack people for wearing masks, you attack Dr. Fauci, and you think he should be in jail. When you think drag queen reading is the sky falling, but then after a mass shooting, you say thoughts and prayers and you say more guns make us safer. I just named you a lot of things that makes you far right, and I could probably name you a lot more, but in general terms, that's what makes you far right in 2024.
Well, that's interesting. Have you ever, has it ever crossed your mind that maybe people are not going to bend the knee to the woke mob anymore?
Well, give me an example of the woke mob. Be specific, 'cause that's a general term. Be specific and tell me what you mean by that.
I mean, that's the swamp, is it not? The Democrats and the far left.
The swamp is the Democrats and the far left. So you would say Mitch McConnell's not part of the swamp? Is he far left?
Sure he is.
Okay,
yeah,
well, he's
a
not
rhino
far left.
Republican.
Okay, but he's
well,
not
he
far
could be
left.
a rhino Republican.
Okay.
Well, he's still a rhino.
Okay, but you said the far left. But give me an example of something that you think is woke. Give me a policy. Be specific. Like when you say woke mob, was it a woke mob that attacked the Capitol on January 6th? Would you characterize that as a woke mob?
Sure, I would.
Okay, so you're saying that those that attacked the Capitol on January 6th were leftists?
Yes, they were undercover.
Okay, so that's 150% not true. In fact, there were thousands of people that were, you can laugh, but I'm trying to give you facts and I'm trying to educate you. There were thousands of people that were prosecuted. Several hundred of those people are still in jail. It was proven in court that many of those people were far right in far right fringe groups, and it was proven in a court of law. There is no evidence that a bunch of lefty liberals were the ones that stormed the Capitol on January 6th. And for you to even make a statement like that is blatantly ignorant, sir. And there's no facts to back up what you just said. Can you name me one lefty liberal proven in a court of law that stormed the Capitol on January 6th? Can you name me one?
I don't know who the names of the people are.
Oh, you don't know who the names are. Yeah, how about Ashley Babbitt? Was she a liberal?
Not to my knowledge, but she was wrongfully shot.
Okay, well, I really don't care what your opinions are, whether she was wrongfully shot or not. I'm not going to get into that with you. You just said that there were lefty liberals that stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Sir, the earth is not flat, and they weren't lefty liberals that stormed the Capitol, and it wasn't Antifa. I mean, I'm not going to entertain conspiracy theories. That's absurd. Now, I've asked you to name me a policy that's woke. You haven't named me one policy. What are you talking about when you say woke mob? Give me a policy that Democrats have implemented. I can even name you a couple policies that I think are woke. Can you not name me one policy? No, I'm not going to do for you. You're the one who brought it up. Name me one policy.
What are you mad about, man?
Because you call into this show and you talk about the woke mob. You say the left was responsible for January 6th, which is probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. You complain about the woke mob and you can't name one policy on the left that's woke. How stupid are you, sir? Really, how dumb are you? Yeah, wow.
So was that
you're woke. I think you're woke.
You're
a woke mob. I think you're part of the woke mob, sir. Did you storm the Capitol on January 6th? Are you an insurrectionist?
No.
You look.
No, sir.
Do you look like Duck Dynasty? Do you live in a mobile home? What do you look like, sir? Are you another uneducated and ill-informed white guy who voted for Donald Trump? Get the hell off my show, you buffoon.
I mean, that's a nice narrative. I don't know if that's exactly the way you're.
Why did he do it then? Why did he do it then? If you call it a narrative, because what I'm giving you is not a narrative, it's been confirmed by some. Do you know who Mr. Langford is? Okay.
I'm not here to get into trolling or hate.
No, I'm not. I'm not here to do that. I appreciate you calling in. All right. So tell me.
Sure.
So tell me what. Where do I start here? Why are you supporting Donald Trump? I guess let's start there.
Well, this would be my first time voting for him
Okay.
in the past, however, 12 years. However, since 2016,
Okay.
I have voted in the past. But for me, he has the policies that make sense.
Which policies?
Honestly.
Like, give me some specifics. What specific policies that you like?
Economically, we're not in a good spot economically. I
Okay.
feel that in my day-to-day life.
Okay, so that's your opinion on that, but specifically, like economically isn't a policy. So, like, what specific policies that Trump implemented you disagree with the Democrats on, and you could say, man, I really like that policy. That really helped the economy, because he did put us $8.4 trillion in debt, and he left an economy that was terrible compared to the economy that he took over from Barack Obama. So I just want to know, like, what did he do in 4 years? Because you said you like his policies, and I just want to know, like, what policies do you like? Right? That's a fair question.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Economically, you bring up the debt.
Sure.
I think the debt has been something to play with for these people. Tough to blame on just presidents, but, the debt's out of control, obviously. Everybody says they'll get it under control, but
Okay.
who knows? But, and we had COVID.
Right.
We had to spend our way out of COVID.
You think he did a
I
good
don't
job
put that on
handling?
Donald Trump.
You think he did a good
He
job
did
handling
a fine
COVID?
job.
So when he said 15
He did a
cases,
fine job.
so when he said 15 cases down to 0, it's going to be gone by Easter. He talked about disinfectant, and he turned his coronavirus press conferences into campaign rallies. Would you define that as a good job?
I wouldn't define that as defining the government's program of COVID at the time.
Okay, well, we were losing when he left. We were losing 3,000 to 5,000 people a day, and per capita, we were one of the worst countries in the world. Not the worst, but one of the worst countries in the world. And when we have more money than just about any other country in the world, I don't know. I guess I just respectfully disagree with you. I don't think that's good, but that's okay. We can disagree on that. Can you name me a policy that you like?
Just in general?
Well, yeah, because you said you like his policies, not a policy. And I just want to be fair with you. What is it?
In all honesty, I like the idea of America first. I like the idea of a strong America.
But that's not a policy. America first is a slogan. I didn't, with all due respect, I didn't ask you what slogans you like, because slogans mean nothing to me. Anybody can do that. You said you liked his policies. I can give you a bunch of Biden policies that worked. The CHIPS and Science Act, capping insulin at $35, for example, helping to raise minimum wage, maternity leave, for example. I can give you a long laundry list of policies that worked. I'm just asking you for one, sir, and you haven't given me one policy.
Yeah. Okay, funding black colleges is pretty nice.
Funding black colleges. So what policy was that?
I'm not a policy guy. I'm not a political guy.
Fair enough. I understand, but that's fine.
But am I wrong? Did he fund black colleges
I don't know.
Compared to the past?
You're asking me. All I'm saying is you say you're not a policy guy, but yet you say the reason why you're voting for Trump is because you like his policies. With all due respect, sir, it's hard to have a conversation if you're going to say that. Okay, so you can't name me one policy. Okay, we'll move on from that.
I just did.
Well, that's not what's the policy? What's the bill? You can't even
I don't know the name of it, man.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
So he just threw money at black colleges, but you don't know the policy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay. All right. I don't know what policy you're talking about, but we can move on from that. No problem. Does it bother you that he's a 34-count felon? Does it bother you that he's a liable sexual abuser? Does it bother you that he calls our brave men and women suckers and losers? Does it bother you what happened on January 6th? Does it bother you that he still hasn't conceded the 2020 election? Does any of that behavior, forget about whether you think it's criminal or not, does any of that behavior bother you at all?
To an extent, sure.
Okay, well, I appreciate...
Not a large enough extent not to vote for him.
So
to an extent, yeah.
So policies, even though you couldn't name any, with all due respect, policies are more important to you than principle, morals. Is that a fair assessment, or am I don't want to mischaracterize your take.
In the choices that were given, legitimate choices of people to vote for.
Okay, why is
I'm going to go with policy.
Okay, but you didn't name any policies, but that's okay. We've been there before. Can you tell me why Kamala, you don't think she's legitimate? What's wrong with her?
I didn't say she wasn't legitimate.
Okay, I'm mischaracterizing it then, but I want to hear I want to hear, we've talked about Trump, sort of. I want to get your what do you not like about Kamala Harris? Is that a fair question? What do you not like about her?
It all seems fake. The joy thing, she's flip-flopped on a lot of different issues. She seems like a nice lady,
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what they wanted her to win on. And I'm not against the woman president by any means.
Okay.
But from the things she said in the past to now, it doesn't smell right. And I know exactly what you're going to say.
Well, it's hard
Trump
for me.
Is the same thing.
No, I wasn't going to bring up Trump. Trump. I just wish you'd be. So it bothers you. Her laugh, her fake joy, her laugh bothers you. But the fact that Donald Trump is a liable sexual abuser, that's not that big of a deal to you. Let's just talk about policy. Do you see where I'm going with that? January 6th, lying about the election, a liable sexual abuser, 34-count felon.
How much sex trafficking has gone up since Biden's been president?
Actually, I'll answer that.
To do against that.
So my question was about Harris, but I will answer that question. Do you know, sir?
Well, you brought up liable sexual abuse.
Sure.
That's why I bring it up.
Well, is Joe Biden a liable sexual abuser? Is Kamala Harris a liable?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Where was that proven in a court of law? Okay, where was that proven in a court of law?
In a court of law?
Yeah. Oh, so you laugh about the courts.
No,
so we could just. So you're laughing about the courts. So we could just call somebody a sexual abuser, and that means that person's a sexual abuser, and it doesn't have to be proven in a court of law. And you're laughing at that? Donald Trump was proven liable in a court of law with a jury of his peers that he sexually abused a woman by the name of E. Jean Carroll. He has 25 plus women that have accused him of sexual assault or rape, including his ex-wife in a court deposition. But you're making a claim that is totally unsubstantiated that Joe Biden is a sexual abuser. Where are you getting that from?
Well, I'd say the E. Jean Carroll thing's a joke.
Okay, so you think our courts are a joke. Okay, so what about the other 25 women? Are they lying too?
I don't know who's lying about Joe Biden, right?
Well, where has it been substantiated?
Court of law.
Yeah, where has it been substantiated that Joe Biden is a sexual abuser? Well, what can you tell me about that? Because maybe this is breaking news. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, have you checked out Ashley Biden's diary, or is that?
Yes, I have. Let's talk about Ashley Biden's diary.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. First of all, Ashley Biden was the first person at the DNC that introduced her father, number one. Number two, she stands by her father. Number three, that diary was in the hands of 3 or 4 right-wing nutcases that stole the diary, including a guy by the name of Mr. O'Keefe. It has never been proven or substantiated that she even wrote that in the diary. But I'm sure you weren't aware of that. But you would rather look at and take something that his daughter wrote in a diary. By the way, even in the diary, even if it was real, which we don't know if it was, she said borderline maybe inappropriate, okay? You have a woman in a court of law that said that Donald Trump raped her. It was proven based on evidence in a court of law that Donald Trump raped her. So you want to laugh?
Well, how much did she win? How much did she win in that settlement?
Here's my question. I don't care about the money. Okay, here's the problem that I have here.
She said it was sexy. She said it was sexy.
So does that mean
live television.
So does that mean that it didn't happen?
I'm saying this woman maybe isn't the parameter of what you should be listening to.
So you don't think this woman?
New York socialites, they're free.
Okay, so you don't think that's a parameter, E. Jean Carroll, even though a jury decided he's a liable sexual abuser, a man who has 5 kids with 3 different women, a man who's had 25 women have accused him of sexual assault or rape, but you want to go by and call Joe Biden a sexual abuser because a diary that was completely unverified, never proven in a court of law, that was in the hands of Mr. O'Keefe and other right-wing turds that stole the diary. Do you see where I'm going with this, sir? It's an issue of credibility. This is the man who bragged about sexual assault, who said, if she wasn't my daughter, I would date her. By the way, how can you explain the fact that he was on the Jeffrey Epstein flight log 7 times, mingling and hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? Or does that not bother you at all either?
I mean, it's a cause for concern, but listen, these people of this of this ultra wealthy status, which I'm against. That's probably one of my biggest knocks on Donald Trump. They catch rides all the time because they're jet setters. Okay, doesn't necessarily mean anything went down.
But you know who wasn't on? You know who wasn't on that? You know who wasn't on that flight log? Joe Biden.
I guess Kamala Harris or Joe Biden.
Yeah, they weren't on that flight log.
Joe Biden owns an island right by a little St. James, not far off. I mean,
so because
you've never heard that, but he does. And he mingles with all these people. It's the same.
Okay, can you show me?
Pool.
All right, fair enough. Can you show me one picture of Joe Biden mingling with Jeffrey Epstein? Because I can show you pictures and videos of Donald Trump. Does that not bother you at all?
It's a bad look, no doubt.
It definitely is a bad look. We agree on that.
But I mean, okay. Yeah, sure. It doesn't look good.
So what are your criticisms of Kamala Harris? I mean, you're making fun of her laugh. I've given you.
I didn't say anything about her laugh.
Well, you said it's fake joy.
painting
fake
the
joy.
campaign is based on the idea of joy.
Sure.
When I tuned in,
here's what I tell you.
You
know why I say that, sir? And you can tell me whether you disagree or not. I've been to both Trump rallies and Kamala Harris rallies. The Trump rally I went to a few months ago. Yeah, I try to hear both sides. That's why I'm keeping you on the line, because I think it's a good conversation. I went to the Trump rally, okay, in Vegas. I saw a bunch of F Joe Biden shirts. I saw Confederate flags. By the way, I videoed this and I documented it. A lot of hatred, a lot of bigotry. And when I say joy, I went to the Harris rally several weeks ago. I didn't see any vulgarities. I didn't see any Confederate flags. All I saw was Waltz, and I saw Harris flags, and people were smiling, laughing, and having a good time. Now, I'm not saying that every person that goes to a Trump rally is filled with bigotry and hate, but the rally that I went to, there were a lot of people that were filled with bigotry and hate. And in my opinion, it's why the KKK, it's why the Proud Boys, and so many hate groups in this country support Donald Trump, including David Duke. So when I say joy, sir, I mean, I didn't feel any negativity or hatred when I went to the Harris rally. There were a lot of people enjoying themselves, having a good time. Do you disagree with that characterization?
Somewhat, yes, I do.
Okay, so tell me where I'm wrong. Go ahead.
I'm sure the 5,000 Palestinian protesters outside the DNC weren't
there were no
happy.
Okay, so hold on, let's backtrack. There were no
5,000. It's not that much.
Let's backtrack. I was just talking about rallies. There were no Palestinian protesters at any of the Harris rallies that I have been to. If there are
that you've been to.
Okay, if there were protesters outside of a venue that are chanting horrible things, guess what? The Harris campaign doesn't approve. And guess what? You're making my argument for me. Those Palestinian people that were protesting are not voting for Kamala Harris. I'm talking about the supporters that support Donald Trump that were wearing the bigotry and the Confederate flag, which once Donald Trump, by the way, defended. The people that you're describing are not supporting Kamala Harris. I'm not talking about protesters. I'm talking about your supporters. You do understand.
Yeah, I mean,
you do understand.
No,
that those people are not
where you're coming
those
from.
people are not supporting Kamala Harris. How could you criticize Harris for that?
Sure. I mean, they're of the left, though. I mean, they could be supporting her.
How do you know that? How do you know they're on the left? Has somebody done a census? Has they interviewed these people? They could be non-voters. They could be MAGA supporters.
I would contend that most people that want a ceasefire and want a free Palestine would be more left-leaning. That might just be crazy, but it's just something that I feel like is the right thing that I'm saying.
Do you think a ceasefire is a bad idea?
No, I don't think that at all.
Guess
it's
who
not
wants?
It's not going to end at a ceasefire. I'll tell you.
It hasn't ended since the mid-'80s. I didn't say it was going to end, but Kamala Harris is for a ceasefire.
Well, so is Trump.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying. I mean,
ceasefire is a bullshit term.
Okay. Well, what else
Can
about?
I curse? I'm sorry.
Well, yeah. Stay away from that. That's okay. What else about Harris? Because I haven't really heard any substance from you. You haven't given me any Trump policies that you like. And on the coin,
flip. Look, immigration's a problem. Kamala's coming around and saying she wants to do more of a.
Sure.
Immigration's a big problem.
I agree.
Economy's a big problem.
I agree. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about immigration. What about the bipartisan bill where MAGA Republicans and Democrats sat at the table, and it was the biggest comprehensive border bill, which, by the way, was supported by the Border Patrol. They endorsed the bill, which would have been the most comprehensive in decades. And then Donald Trump picks up the phone and he calls his Republican senator friends and says, don't vote for this bill. Do you know why? Because it would have made Joe Biden look good, and he cares more about that than what is good for the country. So for people that want to talk about the border situation, which has, by the way, been an issue in this country for decades and decades and decades, here they have a bill that is put forth together with both sides, and Trump tells them to stick it.
But why, even without any sort of new bill you're talking about, why is it that we have 10,000 immigrants coming across our country, living horrible conditions, don't know what they're in for? They're in camps for 4 or 5 months. They figure out what to do with them. We throw money at them, lots of money at them, the second they get in. To do what? And I mean, I'm not saying they're taking all of our jobs, but I mean,
so I'm not going to, I hear you. And I'm not going to sit here and deny that we have major issues at the border, but we've had those.
It came up when Biden became.
That is not true. Do you see? This is when I get frustrated. I was just going to say, we need to understand that Republicans and Democrats need to come together. Do you understand that there are less people crossing the border illegally now than there were when Trump left office? What you're saying is not true. It's not factually accurate.
I don't believe that.
Well, it's not my fault if you don't believe it. I'm pretty educated on these issues. I talk about them every day.
I live on the border, dude.
Okay, so because you live on the border, you know everything? I'm telling you, look it up. Right now, there are less people crossing the border illegally than there were under the Trump administration. Both parties have made mistakes. They're not perfect. We've had issues at the border for decades. I'm with you on that. But you can't tell me that all of a sudden Trump cares so much about this issue when there were undocumented immigrants that committed horrible crimes under his administration. We never heard about those crimes. Only under the Biden administration we hear about those crimes. And what I am telling you is there was a border bill that was put together with MAGA Republicans and Democrats. It was ready to go. The most comprehensive bill in decades. And Trump picked up the phone and told them not to pass it. Why wouldn't you have a problem with that? I agree with you. We have major problems at the border. Why wouldn't you agree with me that what Trump did was wrong? He put himself before the country.
I mean, that's a nice narrative. I don't know if that's exactly the way you're.
Why did he do it then? Why did he do it then? If you call it a narrative, because what I'm giving you is not a narrative, it's been confirmed by some. Do you know who Mr. Langford is? Donald Trump once called him one of the best Republicans when it came to border issues. He was the main guy that helped put this border bill together. And even Langford was shaking his head and agreeing with Joe Biden during the State of the Union speech when Joe Biden said that it was Donald Trump's fault and MAGA Republicans for why this bill wasn't passed. So that's not a narrative. Langford would agree with me on that. And many of the Republicans that helped put this bill together. I'm not giving you a narrative. I mean, I don't know why you would characterize it as that. Okay, so if you think it's a narrative, why did Donald Trump tell these senators to not pass this bill? It's just a bad bill? Is that why?
Well, from what I understand, there were things in the bill that weren't just immigration focused.
I agree.
There was a lot of pork they called in that bill. Right?
Okay, I agree. But sometimes when you pass bills, I think we'll agree on this, there's going to be positives and negatives, some give and take. For example, I'm going to give you another example real quickly, okay? So Republicans are saying Kamala Harris has changed her stance now on the border wall. She totally changed her stance on it and flip-flopped. That's a lie. You know what she did? She agreed with some of the MAGA Republicans to some of their, I guess you could call them demands, in putting more money towards building the wall in return for other things. It's called negotiations. She helped with those negotiations. But yet Trump picked up the phone and told these senators not to pass this bill. Listen, I appreciate the conversation, my friend. I will give you credit for calling into this show and having a discussion with me. I really do. You sound like a nice guy. The problem I have with this conversation, with all due respect, is I asked you why you were supporting Donald Trump. That was my first question. You said you like his policies. You didn't even say policy. You said policies. And you couldn't name me one policy that you know of. I find that extremely problematic. And then when I asked you your criticisms of Kamala Harris, you said you think she has fake joy, which would be a personality trait you don't like, which I would also disagree with. So here on one side, you like his policies. You can't name me one. On the other side, you don't like Kamala Harris because she has fake joy. I'll let the listeners decide on that one. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. What's up, Paul? You're part of that idiocy of 39% of people in this country. That is what you are a part of, Herb. So don't waste my time by calling into the show. Give me the numbers. You're spreading misinformation. No, I didn't. Coming from the same idiot who thinks Donald Trump won the 2020 election. So why don't you take your conspiracy theories and why don't you take your idiocy and shove it up your dumb MAGA ass?
Listen, I got a question, and just a question because I'm not sure. I've heard you say it before, and I've never, known this. I don't know any facts about this. You said that there's more people here on expired visas than there are illegal aliens that came over the border.
That was according to the latest. That was according to the latest stats that were released, and I think that year would be 2023 and parts of 2024. Yes, sir.
So about how many people are here? You know, they're on their visas that are expired.
I've given those numbers out. I don't have those exact numbers right in front of me, but yeah, Herb, I would request that you look up those numbers for yourself, because as you know, I don't throw things at a wall and hope that it sticks. Census numbers that were put out.
You must be.
Yeah, well, you can look it up. Sure.
You don't have any. You don't have any number. Do you have a general number? Approximation of how many you're talking
I can tell
about?
you that in 2023, there were more people that were in this country illegally that overstayed their visas than those that crossed the border. And if you don't believe me, you can go.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, you can look that up.
Approximately how many?
I don't have those numbers right in front of me.
You can't give a number?
I don't have those numbers right in front of me, Herb. And by the way, it wasn't the number, the point that I was trying to make. And I think you're missing my point, Herb. And I'm going to try to make it again. So hopefully you will understand that. And by the way, I'm going after both sides of the aisle on this issue, because I really don't hear Democrats talking too much about this either. But there are a lot of people in this country that overstay their visas. But what you hear from MAGA,
I don't doubt that.
What you hear from MAGA Republicans is only people that are crossing the border illegally. Why is it that you never hear from somebody like Donald Trump talking about those that overstay their visas? That is my question. Why? I think it has something to do with where they're from. I think it has something to do with their skin color. That's what I think.
So, well, I think that I know you're going to think that because you want to think the worst. But
well, why? No, I don't think the worst. I think logic. Logic.
It's amazing to me that you. It's amazing to me that you have. You say this all the time, but you don't have any numbers for that. Now,
I don't have any numbers. I don't have any numbers.
You're talking about at least between 10 and 15 million people came over the border in the last 4 years.
So, Herb.
And I don't think that many people are here on expired visas.
Well, where are your numbers, Herb? Where are your numbers?
False information.
Oh, I'm giving out false information. What false information have I? Hey, Herb,
what you got to do
Herb, what false information? Herb, Earth to Herb. Herb, what false information have I given out? Please respond. What false information have I given out? Herb? And then the coward hangs up the phone. Hey, dumbass, I didn't give out any false information. Back the latest numbers that have been released, there were more people that overstayed their visas that were in this country illegally than those that crossed the border. I didn't give out any false information, and you are a moron. And every single time you call into this show, you want to ask me for numbers, yet you're the same imbecile who thinks Donald Trump won the 2020 election. You're the same imbecile who thinks that Donald Trump is doing a great job. Hey, Herb, I got a number for you. It's probably around where your IQ is. Donald Trump's numbers, he's got a 39% approval rating, very close to your IQ. Hey, Herb, how's that for a number? Donald Trump has the lowest approval ratings in the last 70 years. And you know what those people are that are in that 39%? Idiots like you. Oh, Brian, give me the numbers. Give me the numbers. You always think the worst. Give me the numbers. How do you like it for that number, Herb? Do you like that? Do you like the fact that inflation is up since day one, since Donald Trump took office? Oh, Herb, here's some numbers for you, you imbecile, you inbred imbecile. I've got some numbers for you, and I've got some receipts to back it up, unlike you, who comes at me with nothing but stupidity. The Energy Information Administration says that gas prices are up at least a few cents since Donald Trump took office. He said he was going to lower the price of gases. The Consumer Price Index says 0.49% inflation rate is up, based on 2.4% the last year that Joe Biden was in office. There's some numbers for you, you dope. You're part of that idiocy of 39% of people in this country. That is what you are a part of, Herb. So don't waste my time by calling into the show. Give me the numbers. You're spreading misinformation. No, I didn't. Coming from the same idiot who thinks Donald Trump won the 2020 election. So why don't you take your conspiracy theories and why don't you take your idiocy and shove it up your dumb MAGA ass? Have a nice day, idiot.